All right. Let's kind of get this started. We've got a Saturday morning with wonderful Wisconsin weather, at least here is pretty good right now. I don't know where everyone else is, but I can tell you that the Wisconsin weather is shaping up quite nicely today. So should be a great time. And it is our last meeting of our next steps in literacy instruction. Really kind of the way we're looking at this is we are weaving it all together. I think it's a great way to end as we shift into August. And what are our plans to continue to grow in this area of literacy instruction? And how does that show up in our classrooms in the starting school year in September? So I don't know if you're like me, but my brain has just been spinning and spinning and spinning. About what's going to happen and what needs to happen next. And so it should be a really good time to kind of think about this. And we're talking about resources and what they offered. Dr. Smartt or Susan Smartt and Deb Glaser kind of shared with us. So today's pretty interactive. So if you choose to chat or whatever, I'm not trying to like overkill, and I don't see this going beyond 30 minutes. But if want to take it longer, we can come with questions, share ideas, etc. So today we're really starting up with weaving it all together. If you don't know me, my name is Sarah Rouse Borelli. I am the Literacy Program Administrator in Menomonee Falls, Wisconsin, and then I am also a board member on the Reading League Wisconsin. So I'm happy to be here to facilitate our quick morning and enjoy spending some time with you all. So in an effort to get us started, let's kind of look at, let's see if my screen will move, where we're at. So we are at that chapter 7, chapter 8. I think I said chapter 7 on the screen, but it's really chapter 8. And our learning targets today are really to elaborate on the interconnections of literacy instruction and assessment, but also discuss the various opportunities that these can blend into cohesive long-term practices across grade levels, and share any ideas and suggestions for weaving it all together. Some of us have tried and true things. Some of us might have been surprised by something you hadn't thought about. And that's really where I want to come back to, would be like, hey, let's leave with something actionable. And that's my hope today. So we've talked about these, and so kind of get our brains going without explicitly, because you've been together all summer, but without explicitly saying what grades you teach or support. I want you to select 3 emojis. You can throw it in the chat. You can put it up on your screen that talk about what your role is in school, and share it in the chat, or you can kind of share it out loud. If we'll take a little time just to kind of get a little fun moment. Here are mine. So if you want to put in the chat, that'd be awesome. I kind of just wanted to start different. Hope that's okay with everyone. It might be a big plan, but 3 emojis. Place them in the chat if you can. If you're feeling it, if you're not there yet because you're cooking breakfast and half listening, also fair. Taking your walk, I love that. Hope you have your weighted vest on, all those things. The things we have to do in the morning. Oh, thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Meredith. I love those. Thank you. Thank you. Ooh, rock star. I get that part. Geraldine, thank you. Perfect. I love it. Personally, I like seeing the data elements because I think that's super important. And the talking, it's so wonderful. You guys, thank you for playing my little game this morning. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So really, kind of to summarize chapter 8, it's all about these 4 things. This is what we've been talking about all summer. We're really looking at that integration where we can blend phonics, fluency, and comprehension into that daily instruction. But we're taking this idea, it's assessment to intervention, using data-driven processes to design those tiers. And then we're able to get those big practical tools. That's what this chapter was about. What are those worksheets? What are those templates for planning and progress tracking? And then how do we design our literacy instruction to continuously evolve into this continuum where it's not things in silos, but how does it filter and infiltrate? And I hope, we all walked away with something, a new idea, something to consider. Maybe this was like, hey, I'm leading a group and they still struggle with this. I want to do this book study and take it to my school with the hope. But really, there was a lot of weaving, and I can only connect weaving with the friendship bracelets I made as a young child. So trying to put all of those pieces together is a lot of fun, and hopefully we've got something to look at. So what we're really looking at some things a little closer today. And it's nothing life-changing. It could be, it has the potential to be, but it really talks about how do we integrate literacy instruction into our everyday instruction. I think as we shift into that more what we would call the structured literacy approach, we really want it to not be siloed. It's not just each of these individual pieces, but those where educators are interweaving all of the components. And it says balanced literacy, but keep in mind, we're not thinking of balanced literacy in the way once was, but in like, we are always addressing these things, talking about phonics on the front end, breaking that down, putting that morphology in together, connecting those vocabulary with that comprehension. So you're looking at all of those integrated pieces. And thinking how this could work. So as we look at this a little closer, was there anything in this chapter that anybody kind of wants to share that really was a key component when it comes to just the integration piece? You were like, yes, I loved this. This is exactly how I teach, or, oh, this is something I really want to work harder at doing a better job in that world of integration. You can unmute or you can put it in the chat.
Hey, Sarah, this is Mary.
Hey, Mary.
I'm just wondering, because I'm not a classroom teacher, I'm wondering if people find this to be more difficult if they have a setup in their school where there's not one published program that they're using, but they're using something for phonics, they're using something for phonemic awareness, they're using something for vocabulary. And I'm just wondering if that makes it a lot more difficult to integrate in your daily instruction, because to me, it seems that approach lends itself to doing siloed instruction. This half hour we're doing this, and this half hour we're doing this, and if things aren't linked together for you in a comprehensive program, then you have to do it yourself, which it seems to me would be really difficult to do. So I'm just curious what people's experiences are as far as that goes. I mean, I was talking to people in Milwaukee and some of the charter schools here, and they have a core program, but they decided, well, it's weak in phonics, it's weak in phonemic awareness. So they have these two completely separate programs that they use. And I didn't get much of a response when I asked how they integrated it all together. So I'm just curious.
No, I think that's a really valid question. And that's a great curiosity, because I know as research has come out and as the science of learning has come out, that is hard. And I think I think Susan Smartt does a nice job of suggesting how it can be. So if anybody has some ideas and what's worked for them, um, I can think of past experiences where it's, oh, well, we have Blevins phonics and Haggerty from anemic awareness, and then our core instruction, but we don't know how to do this. And this is the big part. This is the closer look on how we weave it all together. So if anybody has anything they want to share, or if they, thought like, oh, this is a tool I'm going to try to implement based on our reading, that's great. And I think you're right, Mary. I think that is exactly how the silos happen.
I mean, one of the things that I've seen is not only having one core program and then adding on other programs that cover only a specific area. I've even run across districts where, say, in the area of phonemic awareness, they're not using what's in their core program. They decided that was inadequate. So they've added on Haggerty and they've added on Kilpatrick. So
Right.
it's like two add-ons. And I'm going, wow, this is getting a little overwhelming. So
Well, and then you also go with the assessments. What are the assessments we're using? Haggerty has a great PA assessment, and then Kilpatrick has the past. So how does that also inform our next steps? And what does that look like in time? Because I think teacher capacities often tend to be prioritized of like, I need to do a scripted program because I can't think of this, or I'm also learning more around this. And so I want to take these opportunities to just do it right because I know, but then I've also done 30 minutes of phonemic awareness that might not be as successful as if I just had a really good instructional routine. And that's the piece that I think really showed up nicely in this book were some of those suggestions around instructional routines on what it would look like for my literacy blocks or even my intervention blocks, and intervention blocks really need to use those times properly. And how that shows up is tough, and no one's got the perfect answers because nothing is, you can't just hand something and be like, all your needs are met. But that's where responsive teaching shows up too. So that piece of
still
integration.
waiting for that one comprehensive program that does
Yeah,
everything the way we want it to do it, right? But
right.
yeah, and then you do end up in a situation where sometimes I think you just alluded to this, sometimes there's a lot of wasted time and effort because you're repeating things again that you could have just covered them once, but now it's, oh, we have two programs that deal with that, or we have our core program and two supplemental programs that deal with this particular aspect of reading. And now we're doing all of them. And, it just doesn't seem we're so pressed for time to begin with. So, but I think this is a super important point.
And I think that's kind of the piece that Susan Smartt comes back is really it's that planning piece. It's planning with a purpose and using her tools like those worksheets, the intervention charts, the downloadable templates, and how do you define something as what's going to be your classroom instruction versus what's your small group instruction? And that goes back to a little of that tier two. But the hope with at the end is we're weaving it all together to use the tools to tailor that instruction along those reading components, but also come back with that data informed tiered intervention. So with her assessments that suggested or that you have in place, and that's where that steps framework really does and connects nicely to lead to whatever intervention's needing. But that, maybe it works out in yours is like, you have wit and wisdom is your core tier one instruction, and you added an element of Haggerty, and that's Haggerty's going to take 7 minutes, and we're going to get through our wit and wisdom piece. But it seems like the kids aren't doing so. In my what I need now time, my win time, I'm going to pull a small group, and we're going to use some of that Kilpatrick stuff because it seemed to not go. It didn't stick the first time, so I wonder if that looks like. And oh, we're really struggling because they can't delineate some sounds. So that goes into that intensive and individualized moments. And all of this is the art and science of teaching and learning. And so being aware and using her framework, I really found it valuable because it allows people to kind of come up with the methodology that will work for their classroom. And I hope that by the end of this book study, you can start to consider that methodology and make those planning with purposes and pull a tool that you were like, ooh, I love, or oh, I don't love. So kind of coming back to anybody, if you want to throw it in the chat, or if you want to share what of those two ideas as we looked closer, you were like, ooh, this intervention component is definitely something I want to see in my classroom, or oh, this planning template that she had in the book is definitely something I'm going to bring to my team as we continue to look at what happens, and if you're in Wisconsin, what happens after those Act 20 assessments, after Ames Plus. So feel free to unmute or throw it in the chat, something that you were like, win-win. This is my winner chicken dinner, or I'm going to hope that it is. Thank you, both of you guys. Those add-ins, when the purpose for the add-ins, if the data is showing that your group needs aren't being met, then would you add in another thing at a second dose of instruction, or perhaps to tier 2 groups, or add in that third dose of instructions to your tier 3 groups? I think that's a lot of where I believe would come up in conversations with the teams. I think oftentimes when you look at MLSS and MTSS, you have to, what does that look like is the difference. And then I think too, I'm going to keep reading and not talk. So give me a moment as I read.
I'm liking what Geraldine is saying, that,
Me too.
sometimes our impetus, our first reaction, if kids aren't getting something and we know we need to intervene, is to look for something different. And sometimes what we really need is a more intense dose of what we were already doing. And that way there's some consistency for the learner. They're not all of a sudden looking at this through different eyes, a different mindset of looking at something, but you're giving them more more on what they already had, which just points out why it's so important to have the best you can get in tier 1 to begin with, so that you do have something good to build on.
I agree. And Geraldine, I'm kind of in that same mode. I think it's like one and done. That's not learning. Learning is multiple exposures. We learned last week, not learn, but we reviewed last week, like learning a new word, it takes 7 to 13 exposures. Who's to say that that doesn't mean the same for sounds? And so versus to just rush in, it's that repetitive nature, and learning will tell you that the more that you're building those brain synapses, the better it's going to be. And it's the connections that we make. And so to go through that siloed programming isn't going to work. And I love what everybody else said too. Lori, those cards on page 238, the instructional responses, what a great talking tool for teams. And I think I'm in total agreement. It is a great guide for interventionists and teachers. And I know people are working on focusing on vocabulary. I love that. But then also, pointed out that grade level expectations on page 179 is really are great tools to use forward. This is great conversation, and I know that this is what she wanted from her book, and so this is the other piece I think is really helpful. And that as we look a little closer, it really comes down to where do we go, and where does that continuum of literacy development? Our goal is to cultivate those lifelong readers by connecting the interventions into a sustained instructional pathway. And I think, Geraldine, you hit on it a little bit, just like, what does that mean? And if we as the people in practice, we want to think about what is our sustained instructional pathway. Is it to make the decision to throw everything out, or is it better to bring in the repeated practice and hope that we can kind of review and make those transformational connections? I don't know, maybe because I always think trans and think of across, but like, what are the connected pieces that happen across other elements, and that idea of disciplinary literacy. It's really fun if you're doing a social studies lesson and there's a word that you can connect to their English lesson, and right there you've got your kids jazzed and ready to go because they know it and they remember it. And then that's just when I feel like that little light bulb pops up inside of their head, and you've done that's like my teacher brilliant moment. I don't know if that's everybody else, but it's just like, woo, I love it, I got it, I made the connection. And then that the explanation and the explicit instruction that you were providing really hit it on the head. So besides that, I think you guys have had a lot of great conversations. Is there anything that you kind of feel or want to address, or questions that you have that can help develop that goal of discrete tools and developing our own instructional pathway? If not, and if you are and you're just still processing through it, I think that big idea comes back to what you have. You have a wonderful resource in this book. And hopefully we can kind of think about how to blend those practices and any ideas worth sharing. Let's take the time now to do that. Share questions, share thoughts. You guys have already done that already. And hitting it hard. Okay, see, I love that. Teach the stuff, not the fluff. I might put that on a t-shirt. Maybe we'll put it in the Reading League Wisconsin shop too.
I'm going to turn. One of the things that I just wanted to mention is, when we're talking about how important it is to integrate all the different aspects of reading so they're not in silos. But the other thing I think we want to remember is when we are doing intervention, we don't want to go back to what has been the intervention approach at many schools for many years, which is you find all of the kids who have a problem and you put them all in the same intervention. You do want to do that targeting of, look at the data, look at the assessment, the screening assessment, the diagnostic assessment, find out where the problems are, and then target your intervention. So, I mean, in tier one, definitely we need to integrate all those elements together more, but I don't want that to be interpreted as meaning that you should have interventions that cover everything for every child.
Agreed. I'm on that same board with you, Mary. And I think that's a lot of, I would say in my experience, where people are looking more at like, we're in a fluency intervention versus a comprehension intervention. And that's the approach that I tend to take. I'm not sure that everybody else does, because even in that fluency comprehend intervention, if your second graders are still not getting their initial sounds, then let's do that and do small doses of that repeated kind of concept and then bring that in. Because how this book suggested, it really does look at that, and that tier one is like what everybody gets, and then the tier two comes with what's that small group need, those little individual pieces, and then but targeted. And if we don't move forward with targeted interventions, then they're just the kids aren't going to connect it. And that's the cognitive load theory that I think comes in a lot too. Any kind of final thoughts as we kind of round out this book study that you want to share, or that you appreciated, or was something that was like, we can call it the old-fashioned aha moments? You've already shared a lot of those with vocabulary and kind of focuses for the next year, but it's worth collaborating and discussing those ideas of like, I saw this intervention and I need this, or what connections can we make to other schools that might be working for you or for them. Oh my gosh, Meredith, I am too. And that was another national book National Reading League book study. So I think this Wednesday we'll be kind of doing that finalizing of that MTSS book by Brown and Stoller. And I mean, it's a great.
Yeah, I just want to mention Stephanie Stoller will be a featured speaker at our 2026 conference in Brookfield. So get a chance to
Yes,
hear from her in person. But yeah, these two books taken together are really a good learning tool. Yes,
definitely agree. And
there is a great podcast with Melissa and Lori
yes.
on the MTSS book. So
And I think that was something, if you were in the Wisconsin, Melissa and Lori were here, Stephanie and Susan Smartt were here. Like that was the fun that came for the Title I convention. But speaking of our convention, we have the opportunity to share some more connections around comprehension and all of these fun elements. So if you haven't signed up to come to us and join us in Brookfield on October 3rd, we'll have Sonia Cobble talking about some oral language with Holly Lane, with that author of You Fly, coming to share some foundational skills, an area that we don't talk a lot about, which is spelling. But we did see that showing up here as well. And then I have to move some things because I have to see. And Hugh Katz, oh, I enjoy what he says about comprehension so deeply. And then we have some new students, new schools in the state of Wisconsin who are going to help us connect there and share their literacy journey. So as our book study finishes, know that the learning doesn't stop here. You can join us on Thursday for that MTSS finalization with the Reading League National. And then you can also join us in October as we continue to explore more expertise in it.
and I just want to
Uh,
mention, we try to reach as many people as we can. Once we're a small board, we're all volunteer board, and we do we put all these things together through a volunteer effort. So once we've put the effort in to set up a conference like this, we like to share it with as many people as possible. And we know that Brookfield, Wisconsin is not necessarily within handy commute distance for everyone, or even if it is within commute distance, you can't get the time off from school because there's no substitutes. So we do offer a live stream option that a lot of people have taken advantage of. And regardless of whether you come in person or you opt for the live stream, we record everything and you get a copy of the recordings that you can keep permanently to rewatch. So we do hope you join us, and we have this series that Sarah's finishing up for us today, the book series in the summer. We'll be doing that again next year, I'm sure. And then we
for
have
sure.
free virtual events throughout the school year, one a month. So keep your eye on our social media for announcements of upcoming. I know we have virtual meetings scheduled for September, October, and November already.
Yeah, I think September is adolescent literacy.
Right.
So if you're in that realm, we're hanging out. You'll see me again along with Jeannie Shop and I'm blanking on her name, Lori. Um, we'll be talking a little bit about adolescent literacy and then moving into some more people. So great plugs for all of the work that we do at Turning the Tide or at the Wisconsin Reading League and the Wisconsin Reading Coalition.
And then if you want a certificate of attendance for any of the things, any of the sessions of the book study this summer that you attended in person, we do have, is that what you just posted,
I
Sarah?
did. I just
Yeah,
put it in the chat.
you're a mind reader.
I
Yeah,
have. We
just
do.
post, we can
Mary,
only
we're a
give,
really good team.
I know, if we can only give certificates for sessions that you actually attended live, even though we encourage you to watch the rest of them on our YouTube channel on the recording. But just go to that form and check the ones that you attended, and we'd be happy to send you a certificate. Usually we do it like the day after we're done with the presentation, but this year I'm training somebody else to do the certificates, and I'm doing that on August 15th. So the certificates will be coming out on August 15th.
And that stuff, I mean, the certificates are wonderful. And always, if you go back, use our YouTube channel, it has historical practices that we've shared, kind of little moments. And it would be also, if you're in this world of leadership, we're looking and connected with some other individuals for the Reading League around the LEAD network. So if you're interested in that, check out the website, follow us on the socials, and enjoy as we continue to, make connections and connect with others in order to move the needle forward in our nation. Thank you guys for your time this morning. I hope it was brief and informative. And thank you, Carrie, for enjoying our book studies. Go back, enjoy your coffee in the warm and the weather.